Chapter 7. The Sacrifice Performed by Daksha. Verse 1. The sage Maitreya said, O mighty armed Vidura, Lord Shiva, being thus pacified by the words of Lord Brahma, spoke as follows in answer to Lord Brahma's request. Verse 2. Lord Shiva said, My dear father Brahma, I do not mind the offenses created by the demigods. Because these demigods are childish and less intelligent, I do not take a serious view of their offenses, and I have punished them only in order to right them. Purport. There are two types of punishment. One is that which a conqueror imposes on an enemy, and the other is like that a father imposes on his son. There is a gulf of difference between these two kinds of punishment. Lord Shiva is by nature a Vaishnava, a great devotee, and his name in this connection is Ashutosh. He is always satisfied, and therefore he did not become angry as if he were an enemy. He is not inimical to any living entity. Rather, he always wishes the welfare of all. Whenever he chastises a person, it is just like a father's punishment of his son. Lord Shiva is like a father because he never takes seriously any offense by any living entities, especially the demigods. Verse 3. Lord Shiva continued, Since the head of Daksha has already been burned to ashes, he will have the head of a goat. The demigod known as Bhag will be able to see his share of sacrifice through the eyes of Mitra. Verse 4. The demigod Pusha will be able to chew only through the teeth of his disciples, and if alone, he will have to satisfy himself by eating dough made from chickpea flour. But the demigods who have agreed to give me my share of the sacrifice will recover from all their injuries. Purport. The demigod Pusha became dependent on his disciples for chewing. Otherwise, he was allowed to swallow only dough made of chickpea flour. Thus, his punishment continued. He could not use his teeth for eating, since he had laughed at Lord Shiva, deriding him by showing his teeth. In other words, it was not appropriate for him to have teeth, for he had used them against Lord Shiva. Verse 5. Those who have had their arms cut off will have to work with the arms of Ashwini Kumar, and those whose hands were cut off will have to do their work with the hands of Pusha. The priest will also have to act in that manner. As for Bhrigu, he will have the beard from the goat's head. Purport. Bhrigu Muni, a great supporter of Daksha, was awarded the beard of the goat's head, which was substituted for the head of Daksha. It appears from the exchange of Daksha's head that the modern scientific theory that the brain substance is the cause of all intelligent work is not valid. The brain substance of Daksha and that of a goat are different, but Daksha still acted like himself, even though his head was replaced by that of a goat. The conclusion is that it is the particular consciousness of an individual soul which acts. The brain substance is only an instrument which has nothing to do with real intelligence. The real intelligence, mind, and consciousness are part of the particular individual soul. It will be found in the verses ahead that after Daksha's head was replaced by the goat's head, he was as intelligent as he had previously been. He prayed very nicely to satisfy Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, which is not possible for a goat to do. Therefore, it is definitely concluded that the brain substance is not the center of intelligence. It is the consciousness of a particular soul that works intelligently. The whole movement of Krishna consciousness is to purify the consciousness. It doesn't matter what kind of brain one has, because if he simply transfers his consciousness from matter to Krishna, his life becomes successful. It is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness achieves the highest perfection of life, regardless of whatever abominable condition of life he may have fallen into. Specifically, anyone in Krishna consciousness goes back to Godhead, back to home, on leaving his present material body. Verse 6. The great sage Maitreya said, "My dear Vidura, all the personalities present were very much satisfied in heart and soul upon hearing the words of Lord Shiva, who is the best among the Benedictors." Purport. In this verse, Lord Shiva is described as Medushtam, the best of the Benedictors. He is also known as Ashutosh, which indicates that he is very quickly satisfied and very quickly angered. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that less intelligent persons go to the demigods for material benedictions. In this connection, people generally go to Lord Shiva, and because he is always quickly satisfied and gives benedictions to his devotees without consideration, he is called Medushtam, or the best of the Benedictors. Materialistic persons are always anxious to get material profit, but they are not serious about spiritual profit. Sometimes, of course, it so happens that Lord Shiva becomes the best benedictor in spiritual life. It is said that once a poor Brahmin worshipped Lord Shiva for a benediction, and Lord Shiva advised the devotee to go to see Sanatana Goswami. The devotee went to Sanatana Goswami and informed him that Lord Shiva had advised him to seek out the best benediction from him, Sanatana. Sanatana had a touchstone with him, which he kept with the garbage. On the request of the poor Brahmin, Sanatana Goswami gave him the touchstone, and the Brahmin was very happy to have it. He now could get as much gold as he desired simply by touching the touchstone to iron. But after he left Sanatana, he thought, if a touchstone is the best benediction, why has Sanatana Goswami kept it with the garbage? He therefore returned and asked Sanatana Goswami, "Sir, if this is the best benediction, why did you keep it with the garbage?" Sanatana Goswami then informed him, "Actually, this is not the best benediction. But are you prepared to take the best benediction from me?" The Brahmin said, "Yes, sir. Lord Shiva has sent me to you for the best benediction." Then Sanatana Goswami asked him to throw the touchstone in the water nearby and then come back. The poor Brahmin did so, and when he returned, Sanatana Goswami initiated him with the Hare Krishna mantra. Thus, by the benediction of Lord Shiva, the Brahmin got the association of the best devotee of Lord Krishna, and was thus initiated in the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Verse 7. Thereafter, Bhrigu, the chief of the great sages, invited Lord Shiva to come to the sacrificial arena. Thus the demigods, accompanied by the sages, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, all went to the place where the great sacrifice was being performed. Purport. The whole sacrifice arranged by King Daksha had been disturbed by Lord Shiva. Therefore, all the demigods present there, along with Lord Brahma and the great sages, specifically requested Lord Shiva to come and revive the sacrificial fire. There is a common phrase, Shiva Hina Yagya. Any sacrifice without the presence of Lord Shiva is baffled. Lord Vishnu is Yogeshwar, the Supreme Personality in the matter of sacrifice. Yet in each yajna, it is necessary for all the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, to be present. Verse 8. After everything was executed exactly as directed by Lord Shiva, Daksha's body was joined to the head of the animal meant to be killed in the sacrifice. Purport. This time, all the demigods and great sages were very careful not to irritate Lord Shiva. Therefore, whatever he asked was done. It is specifically said here that Daksha's body was joined to the head of an animal, a goat. Verse 9. When the animal's head was fixed on the body of King Daksha, Daksha was immediately brought to consciousness, and as he awakened from sleep, the king saw Lord Shiva standing before him. Purport. The example given here is that Daksha got up as if he were awakened from deep sleep. In Sanskrit, this is called Supta Evotastau. The meaning is that after a man awakens from sleep, he immediately remembers all the duties which he must execute. Daksha was killed, and his head was taken away and burned to ashes. His body was lying dead, but by the grace of Lord Shiva, as soon as the head of a goat was joined to the body, Daksha came back to consciousness again. This indicates that consciousness is also individual. Daksha actually took another body when he took on the head of a goat, but because consciousness is individual, his consciousness remained the same, although his bodily condition changed. Thus, bodily construction has nothing to do with the development of consciousness. Consciousness is carried with the transmigration of the soul. There are many instances of this in Vedic history, such as the case of Maharaj Bharat. After quitting his body as a king, Maharaj Bharat was transferred to the body of a deer, but he retained the same consciousness. He knew that although formerly he was King Bharat, he had been transferred to the body of a deer because of his absorption in thinking of a deer at the time of his death. In spite of his having the body of a deer, however, his consciousness was as good as it was in the body of King Bharat. The arrangement by the Lord is so nice that if a person's consciousness is turned into Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt that in his next life he will be a great devotee of Krishna, even if he is offered a different type of body. Verse 10. At that time, when Daksha saw Lord Shiva, who rides upon a bull, his heart, which was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva, was immediately cleansed, just as the water in a lake is cleansed by autumn rains. Purport. Here is an example of why Lord Shiva is called auspicious. If anyone sees Lord Shiva with devotion and reverence, his heart is immediately cleansed. King Daksha was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva, and yet by seeing him with a little love and devotion, his heart immediately became cleansed. In the rainy season, the reservoirs of water become dirty and muddy, but as soon as the autumn rain comes, all the water immediately becomes clear and transparent. Similarly, although Daksha's heart was impure because of his having slandered Lord Shiva, for which he was severely punished, Daksha now came to consciousness, and just by seeing Lord Shiva with veneration and respect, he became immediately purified. Verse 11. King Daksha wanted to offer prayers to Lord Shiva, but as he remembered the ill-fated death of his daughter Sati, his eyes filled with tears, and in bereavement his voice choked up, and he could not say anything. Verse 12. At this time, King Daksha, afflicted by love and affection, was very much awakened to his real senses. With great endeavor, he pacified his mind, checked his feelings, and with pure consciousness began to offer prayers to Lord Shiva. Verse 13. King Daksha said, "My dear Lord Shiva, I committed a great offense against you, but you are so kind that instead of withdrawing your mercy, you have done me a great favor by punishing me. You and Lord Vishnu never neglect even useless, unqualified Brahmins. Why then should you neglect me, who am engaged in performing sacrifices?" Purport. Although Daksha felt defeated, he knew that his punishment was simply the great mercy of Lord Shiva. He remembered that Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu are never neglectful of the Brahmins, even though the Brahmins are sometimes unqualified. According to Vedic civilization, a descendant of a Brahmin family should never be heavily punished. This was exemplified in Arjuna's treatment of Ashvatthama. Ashvatthama was the son of a great Brahmin, Dronacharya, and in spite of his having committed the great offense of killing all the sleeping sons of the Pandavas, for which he was condemned even by Lord Krishna, Arjuna excused him by not killing him because he happened to be the son of a Brahmin. The word Brahma Bandhushu used here is significant. Brahma Bandhu means a person who is born of a Brahmin father, but whose activities are not up to the standard of the Brahmins. Such a person is not a Brahmin, but a Brahma Bandhu. Daksha proved himself to be a Brahma Bandhu. He was born of a great Brahmin father, Lord Brahma, but his treatment of Lord Shiva was not exactly Brahminical. Therefore he admitted that he was not a perfect Brahmin. Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, however, are affectionate even to an imperfect Brahmin. Lord Shiva punished Daksha not as one does his enemy. Rather, he punished Daksha just to bring him to his senses, so that he would know that he had done wrong. Daksha could understand this, and he acknowledged the great mercy of Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva towards the fallen Brahmins, including even himself. Although he was fallen, his vow was to execute the sacrifice, as is the duty of Brahmins, and thus he began his prayers to Lord Shiva. Verse 14. My dear great and powerful Lord Shiva, you were created first from the mouth of Lord Brahma in order to protect the Brahmins in pursuing education, austerities, vows, and self-realization. As protector of the Brahmins, you always protect the regulative principles they follow, just as a cowherd boy keeps a stick in his hand to give protection to the cows. Purport. The specific function of a human being in society, irrespective of his social status, is to practice control of the mind and senses by observing the regulative principles enjoined in the Vedic Shastras. Lord Shiva is called Pashupati because he protects the living entities in their developed consciousness so that they may follow the Vedic system of Varna and Ashram. The word Pashu refers to the animal as well as to the human entity. It is stated here that Lord Shiva is always interested in protecting the animals and the animalistic living entities, who are not very advanced in the spiritual sense. It is also stated that the Brahmins are produced from the mouth of the Supreme Lord. We should always remember that Lord Shiva is being addressed as the representative of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. In the Vedic literature, it is described that the Brahmins are born from the mouth of the universal form of Vishnu. The Kshatriyas are born from his arms, the Vaishyas from his abdomen or waist, and the Shudras from his legs. In the formation of a body, the head is the principal factor. The Brahmins are born from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to accept charity for worship of Vishnu and to spread Vedic knowledge. Lord Shiva is known as Pashupati, the protector of the Brahmins and other living entities. He protects them from the attacks of non-Brahmins or uncultured persons who are against the self-realization process. Another feature of this word is that persons who are simply attached to the ritualistic portion of the Vedas and do not understand the situation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not any more advanced than animals. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is confirmed that even though one performs the rituals of the Vedas, if he does not develop a sense of Krishna consciousness, then all his labor in performing Vedic rituals is considered to be simply a waste of time. Lord Shiva's aim in destroying the Daksha Yajna was to punish Daksha because, by neglecting him, Lord Shiva, Daksha was committing a great offense. Lord Shiva's punishment was just like that of a cowherd boy who keeps a stick to frighten his animals. It is commonly said that to give protection to animals, a stick is needed because animals cannot reason and argue. Their reasoning and argument is argumentum ad baculum. Unless there is a rod, they do not obey. Force is required for the animalistic class of men, whereas those who are advanced are convinced by reasons, arguments, and scriptural authority. Persons who are simply attached to Vedic rituals without further advancement of devotional service or Krishna consciousness are almost like animals, and Lord Shiva is in charge of giving them protection and sometimes punishing them, as he punished Daksha. Verse 15. I do not know your full glories. For this reason, I threw arrows of sharp words at you in the open assembly, although you did not take them into account. I was going down to hell because of my disobedience to you, who are the most respectable personality. But you took compassion upon me and saved me by awarding punishment. I request that you be pleased by your own mercy, since I cannot satisfy you by my words. Purport. As usual, a devotee in an adverse condition of life accepts such a condition to be the mercy of the Lord. Factually, the insulting words used by Daksha against Lord Shiva were enough to have him thrown perpetually into a hellish life. But Lord Shiva, being kind toward him, awarded him punishment to neutralize the offense. King Daksha realized this and, feeling obliged for Lord Shiva's magnanimous behavior, wanted to show his gratitude. Sometimes the father punishes his child, and when the child is grown up and comes to his senses, he understands that the father's punishment was not actually punishment, but mercy. Similarly, Daksha appreciated that the punishment offered to him by Lord Shiva was a manifestation of Lord Shiva's mercy. That is the symptom of a person making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness. It is said that a devotee in Krishna consciousness never takes any miserable condition of life to be condemnation by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He accepts the miserable condition to be the grace of the Lord. He thinks, I would have been punished or put into a more dangerous condition of life due to my past misdeeds, but the Lord has protected me. Thus I have received only a little punishment as token execution of the law of karma. Thinking of his grace in that way, a devotee always surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead more and more seriously, and is not disturbed by such so-called punishment. Verse 16. The great sage Maitreya said, thus being pardoned by Lord Shiva, King Daksha, with the permission of Lord Brahma, again began the performance of the yajna, along with the great learned sages, the priests, and others. Verse 17. Thereafter, in order to resume the activities of sacrifice, the Brahmins first arranged to purify the sacrificial arena of the contamination caused by the touch of Virabhadra and the other ghostly followers of Lord Shiva. Then they arranged to offer into the fire the oblations known as Purudasha. Purport. Lord Shiva's followers and devotees, headed by Virabhadra, are known as Viras, and they are ghostly demons. Not only did they pollute the entire sacrificial arena by their very presence, but they disturbed the whole situation by passing stool and urine. Therefore, the infection they had created was to be first purified by the method of offering Purudasha oblations. A Vishnu yajna, or an offering to Lord Vishnu, cannot be performed uncleanly. To offer everything in an unclean state is called a seva-aparad. The worship of the Vishnu deity in the temple is also Vishnu yajna. In all Vishnu temples, therefore, the priest who takes care of the Archana Vidhi must be very clean. Everything should be always kept neat and clean, and the foodstuffs should be prepared in a neat and clean manner. All these regulative principles are described in the Nectar of Devotion. There are 32 kinds of offenses in discharging Archana service. It is required, therefore, that one be extremely careful not to be unclean. Generally, whenever any ritualistic ceremony is begun, the holy name of Lord Vishnu is first chanted in order to purify the situation. Whether one is in a pure or impure condition, internally or externally, if one chants or even remembers the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, one immediately becomes purified. The Yajna arena was desecrated by the presence of Lord Shiva's followers, headed by Virabhadra, and therefore the entire arena had to be sanctified. Although Lord Shiva was present and he is all auspicious, it was still necessary to sanctify the place because his followers had broken into the arena and committed so many obnoxious acts. That sanctification was possible only by chanting the holy name of Vishnu, Trikapal, which can sanctify the three worlds. In other words, it is admitted herein that the followers of Lord Shiva are generally unclean. They are not even very hygienic. They do not take baths regularly. They wear long hair and they smoke ganja. Persons of such irregular habits are counted amongst the ghosts. Since they were present in the sacrificial arena, the atmosphere became polluted, and it had to be sanctified by Trikapal oblations, which indicated the invocation of Vishnu's favor. Verse 18. The great sage Maitreya said to Vidura, "My dear Vidura, as soon as King Daksha offered the clarified butter with Yajurveda mantras in sanctified meditation, Lord Vishnu appeared there in his original form as Narayan." Purport. Lord Vishnu is all-pervading. Any devotee who, in sanctified meditation, following the regulative principles, chants the required mantras in service and in a devotional mood, can see Vishnu. It is said in the Brahma Samhita that a devotee whose eyes are anointed with the ointment of love of Godhead can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead always within his heart. Lord Shyamasundar is so kind to his devotee. Verse 19. Lord Narayan was seated on the shoulder of Stotra, or Garuda, who had big wings. As soon as the Lord appeared, all directions were illuminated, diminishing the luster of Brahma and the others present. Purport. A description of Narayan is given in the following two shlokas. Verse 20. His complexion was blackish, his garment yellow like gold, and his helmet as dazzling as the sun. His hair was bluish, the color of black bees, and his face was decorated with earrings. His 8 hands held a conch shell, wheel, club, lotus flower, arrow, bow, shield, and sword, and they were decorated with golden ornaments such as bangles and bracelets. His whole body resembled a blossoming tree, beautifully decorated with various kinds of flowers. Purport. The face of Lord Vishnu, as described in this verse, appears like a lotus flower with bees humming over it. All of the ornaments on the body of Lord Vishnu resemble molten gold of the reddish gold color of the morning sunrise. The Lord appears, just as the morning sun rises, to protect the whole universal creation. His arms display different weapons, and his 8 hands are compared to the 8 petals of a lotus flower. All the weapons mentioned are for the protection of his devotees. Generally, in the 4 hands of Vishnu, there are a wheel, club, conch shell, and lotus flower. These 4 symbols are seen in the 4 hands of Vishnu in different arrangements. The club and the wheel are the Lord's symbols of punishment for the demons and miscreants, and the lotus flower and conch shell are used to bless the devotees. There are always 2 classes of men, the devotees and the demons. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya Sadhunam, the Lord is always ready for the protection of the devotees and annihilation of the demons. There are demons and devotees in this material world, but in the spiritual world there is no such distinction. In other words, Lord Vishnu is the proprietor of both the material and spiritual worlds. In the material world, almost everyone is of the demoniac nature, but there are also devotees who appear to be in the material world, although they are always situated in the spiritual world. A devotee's position is always transcendental, and he is always protected by Lord Vishnu. Verse 21. Lord Vishnu looked extraordinarily beautiful because the goddess of fortune and a garland were situated on his chest. His face was beautifully decorated with a smiling attitude, which can captivate the entire world, especially the devotees. Fans of white hair appeared on both sides of the Lord like white swans, and the white canopy overhead looked like the moon. Purport. The smiling face of Lord Vishnu is pleasing to the whole world. Not only devotees, but even non-devotees are attracted by such a smile. This verse nicely describes how the sun, moon, 8-petaled lotus flower, and humming black bees were represented by the fans of hair, the overhead canopy, the moving earrings on both sides of his face, and his blackish hair. Altogether, accompanied by the conch shell, wheel, club, lotus flower, bow, arrows, shield, and sword in his hands, these presented a grand and beautiful audience for Lord Vishnu, which captivated all the demigods there, including Daksha and Lord Brahma. Verse 22. As soon as Lord Vishnu was visible, all the demigods, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, the Gandharvas, and all present there, immediately offered their respectful obeisances by falling down straight before him. Purport. It appears that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Lord, even of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. What to speak of the demigods, Gandharvas, and ordinary living entities. It is stated in a prayer, Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Maruta. All the demigods worship Lord Vishnu. Similarly, Jnana Vastita Tad Gatena Manasa Pashanti Yam Yogina. Yogis concentrate their minds on the form of Lord Vishnu. Thus Lord Vishnu is worshipable by all demigods, all Gandharvas, and even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashanti Suraya. Vishnu is therefore the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though Lord Shiva was previously referred to in prayers by Lord Brahma as the Supreme, when Lord Vishnu appeared, Shiva also fell prostrated before him to offer respectful obeisances. Verse 23. In the presence of the glaring effulgence of the bodily luster of Narayan, everyone else's luster faded away, and everyone stopped speaking. Fearful with awe and veneration, all present touched their hands to their heads and prepared to offer their prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead at Hoksaja. Verse 24. Although the mental scope of even demigods like Brahma was unable to comprehend the unlimited glories of the Supreme Lord, they were all able to perceive the transcendental form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by His grace. Only by such grace could they offer their respectful prayers according to their different capacities. Purport. The Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, is always unlimited, and His glories cannot be completely enumerated by anyone, even by a personality like Lord Brahma. It is said that Ananta, a direct incarnation of the Lord, has unlimited mouths, and with each mouth he has been trying to describe the glories of the Lord for an unlimited span of time. Yet the glories of the Lord remain unlimited, and He therefore never finishes. It is not possible for any ordinary living entity to understand or to glorify the unlimited personality of Godhead. But one can offer prayers or service to the Lord according to one's particular capacity. This capacity is increased by the service spirit. Sevanmukhe jivadao means that the service of the Lord begins with the tongue. This refers to chanting. By chanting Hare Krishna, one begins the service of the Lord. Another function of the tongue is to taste and accept the Lord's prasad. We have to begin our service to the unlimited with the tongue and become perfect in chanting and accepting the Lord's prasad. To accept the Lord's prasad means to control the entire set of senses. The tongue is considered to be the most uncontrollable sense because it hankers for so many unwholesome eatables, thereby forcing the living entity into the dungeon of material conditional life. As the living entity transmigrates from one form of life to another, he has to eat so many abominable foodstuffs that finally there is no limit. The tongue should be engaged in chanting and eating the Lord's prasad so that the other senses will be controlled. Chanting is the medicine and prasad is the diet. With these processes, one can begin his service, and as the service increases, the Lord reveals more and more to the devotee. But there is no limit to his glories, and there is no limit to engaging oneself in the service of the Lord. Verse 25. When Lord Vishnu accepted the oblations offered in the sacrifice, Daksha, the Prajapati, began with great pleasure to offer respectful prayers unto him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the master of all sacrifices and preceptor of all the Prajapatis, and he is served even by such personalities as Nanda and Sunanda. Verse 26. Daksha addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My dear Lord, you are transcendental to all speculative positions. You are completely spiritual, devoid of all fear, and you are always in control of the material energy. Even though you appear in the material energy, you are situated transcendentally. You are always free from material contamination because you are completely self-sufficient. Verse 27. The priests addressed the Lord, saying, O Lord, transcendental to material contamination, by the curse offered by Lord Shiva's men, we have become attached to fruitive activities, and thus we are now fallen and therefore do not know anything about you. On the contrary, we are now involved in the injunctions of the three departments of the Vedic knowledge under the plea of executing rituals in the name of yajna. We know that you have made arrangements for distributing the respective shares of the demigods. Purport. The Vedas are known as Trigunya Vishaya Veda. Those who are serious students of the Vedas are very much attached to the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas, and therefore these Vedavadis cannot understand that the ultimate goal of the Vedas is to understand Lord Krishna or Vishnu. Those who have transcended the qualitative Vedic attractions, however, can understand Krishna, who is never contaminated by the material qualities. Therefore, Lord Vishnu is addressed here as Ananjana, free from material contamination. In Bhagavad Gita, the crude Vedic scholars have been deprecated by Krishna as follows. Yami mam pushpitam bacham pravadantya vi paschita Vedavada rata parta nanyad astiti varina. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, and they say that there is nothing more than this. Verse 28. The members of the assembly addressed the Lord, O exclusive shelter for all who are situated in troubled life. In this formidable fort of conditional existence, the time element, like a snake, is always looking for an opportunity to strike. This world is full of ditches of so-called distress and happiness, and there are many ferocious animals always ready to attack. The fire of lamentation is always blazing, and the mirage of false happiness is always alluring, but one has no shelter from them. Thus foolish persons live in the cycle of birth and death, always overburdened in discharging their so-called duties, and we do not know when they will accept the shelter of your lotus feet. Purport. Persons who are not in Krishna consciousness are living a very precarious life, as described in this verse. But all these circumstantial conditions are due to forgetfulness of Krishna. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give relief to all these bewildered and distressed persons. Therefore, it is the greatest relief work for all human society, and the workers thereof are the greatest well-wishers, for they follow in the footsteps of Lord Caitanya, who is the greatest friend to all living entities. Verse 29. Lord Shiva said, "My dear Lord, my mind and consciousness are always fixed on your lotus feet, which, as the source of all benediction and the fulfillment of all desires, are worshipped by all liberated great sages, because your lotus feet are worthy of worship. With my mind fixed on your lotus feet, I am no longer disturbed by persons who blaspheme me, claiming that my activities are not purified. I do not mind their accusations, and I excuse them out of compassion, just as you exhibit compassion toward all living entities." Purport. Lord Shiva expresses herein his regret at having been angry and having disturbed the sacrificial activities of Daksha. King Daksha had insulted him in many ways, and thus he had become angry and had frustrated the entire sacrificial ceremony. Later, when he was pleased, the yajna performances were reinstituted, and therefore he regretted his activities. Now he says that because his mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, he is no longer disturbed by the ordinary critics of his way of life. From this statement by Lord Shiva, it is understood that as long as one is on the material platform, one is affected by the three modes of material nature. As soon as one is in Krishna consciousness, however, one is no longer affected by such material activities. One should therefore always be fixed in Krishna consciousness, busy in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. It is guaranteed that such a devotee will never be affected by the actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature. This fact is also corroborated in Bhagavad Gita. Anyone who is fixed in the transcendental service of the Lord has surpassed all the material qualities and is situated in the status of Brahman realization, in which one is not afflicted by hankering for material objects. The recommendation of the Srimad Bhagavatam is that one should always be Krishna conscious and should never forget his transcendental relationship with the Lord. This program has to be followed strictly by everyone. From the statement of Lord Shiva, it is understood that he was always in Krishna consciousness, and thus he remained free from material affliction. The only remedy, therefore, is to continue Krishna consciousness rigidly in order to get out of the contamination of the material modes. Verse 30. Sri Bhrigu said, "My dear Lord, all living entities, beginning from the highest, namely Lord Brahma, down to the ordinary ant, are under the influence of the insurmountable spell of illusory energy, and thus they are ignorant of their constitutional position. Everyone believes in the concept of the body, and all are thus submerged in the darkness of illusion. They are actually unable to understand how you live in every living entity as the Supersoul, nor can they understand your absolute position. But you are the eternal friend and protector of all surrendered souls. Therefore, please be kind toward us and forgive all our offenses." Purport. Bhrigu Muni was conscious of the scandalous behavior exhibited by each and every one of them, including Brahma and Lord Shiva, in the sacrificial ceremony of Daksha. By mentioning Brahma, the chief of all living entities within this material world, he wanted to state that everyone, including also Brahma and Lord Shiva, is under the concept of the body and under the spell of material energy, all but Vishnu. That is the version of Bhrigu. As long as one is under the concept of the body as self, it is very difficult to understand the Supersoul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Conscious that he was not greater than Brahma, Bhrigu included himself in the list of offenders. Ignorant personalities or conditioned souls have no choice but to accept their precarious condition under material nature. The only remedy is to surrender to Vishnu and always pray to be excused. One should depend only on the causeless mercy of the Lord for deliverance, and not even slightly on one's own strength. That is the perfect position of a Krishna-conscious person. The Lord is everyone's friend, but he is especially friendly to the surrendered soul. The simple process, therefore, is that a conditioned soul should remain surrendered to the Lord, and the Lord will give him all protection to keep him out of the clutches of material contamination. Verse 31. Lord Brahma said, "My dear Lord, your personality and eternal form cannot be understood by any person who is trying to know you through the different processes of acquiring knowledge. Your position is always transcendental to the material creation, whereas the empiric attempt to understand you is material, as are its objectives and instruments." Purport. It is said that the transcendental name, qualities, activities, paraphernalia, etc. of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be understood with our material senses. The attempt of the empiric philosophers to understand the absolute truth by speculation is always futile, because their process of understanding, their objective, and the instruments by which they try to understand the absolute truth are all material. The Lord is aprakrita, beyond the creation of the material world. This fact is all. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The words Yusmat Katamrita Nishevaka mean those who engage in relishing the nectar of the topics of your lordship. There are two narrative books which especially concern the words and activities of Krishna. Bhagavad Gita is the instruction given by Krishna, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the book containing topics exclusively about Krishna and his devotees. These two books are the special nectar of the words of Krishna. For those who engage in the preaching of these two Vedic literatures, it is very easy to get out of the illusory conditional life imposed upon us by Maya. The illusion is that the conditioned soul does not try to understand his spiritual identity. He is more interested in his external body, which is only a flash and which will be finished as soon as the time is designated. The whole atmosphere will change when the living entity has to transmigrate from one body to another. Under the spell of Maya, he will again be satisfied in a different atmosphere. This spell of Maya is called Avaranatmika Shakti because it is so strong that the living entity is satisfied in any abominable condition. Even if he is born as a worm living within the intestine or abdomen in the midst of urine and stool, still he is satisfied. This is the covering influence of Maya. But the human form of life is a chance to understand, and if one misses this opportunity, he is most unfortunate. The way to get out of illusory Maya is to engage in the topics of Krishna. Lord Caitanya advocated a process whereby everyone may remain in his present position without change, but simply hear from the proper authoritative sources about Krishna. Lord Caitanya advised everyone to spread the word of Krishna. He advised, all of you become spiritual masters. Your duty is simply to talk to whomever you meet of Krishna or of the instructions given by Krishna. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is operating for this purpose. We do not ask anyone to first change his position and then come to us. Instead, we invite everyone to come with us and simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Because we know that if one simply chants and hears the topics of Krishna, one's life will change. He will see a new light, and his life will be successful. Verse 45. The Brahmin said, Dear Lord, you are sacrifice personified. You are the offering of clarified butter. You are the fire. You are the chanting of Vedic hymns by which the sacrifice is conducted. You are the fuel. You are the flame. You are the kusha grass. And you are the sacrificial pots. You are the priests who perform the yajna. You are the demigods headed by Indra. And you are the sacrificial animal. Everything that is sacrificed is you, or your energy. Purport. In this statement, Lord Vishnu's all-pervasiveness is partially explained. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that as a fire situated in one place emanates its heat and illumination everywhere, so whatever we see within the material or spiritual worlds is nothing but a manifestation of different energies emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahmin statement is that Lord Vishnu is everything: the fire, the offering, the clarified butter, the utensils, the place of sacrifice, and the kusha. He is everything. It is confirmed herein that the performance of Sankirtan Yajna in this age is as good as all other yajnas in all other ages. If one performs Sankirtan Yajna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, there is no need to arrange elaborate paraphernalia for the prescribed sacrificial ceremonies recommended in the Vedas. In the chant of the holy names Hare and Krishna, Hare means the energy of Krishna, and Krishna is the Vishnu Tattva. Combined together, they are everything. In this age, persons are harassed by the influence of Kali Yuga and cannot arrange for all the requisite paraphernalia for performing sacrifice as recommended in the Vedas. But if one simply chants Hare Krishna, it is to be understood that he is performing all kinds of yajna, because there is nothing within our vision except Hare, the energy of Krishna, and Krishna. There is no difference between Krishna and his energies. Thus, since everything is a manifestation of his energy, it is to be understood that everything is Krishna. One simply has to accept everything in Krishna consciousness, and he is a liberated person. One should not misunderstand that because everything is Krishna, Krishna has no personal identity. Krishna is so full that in spite of keeping himself separate from everything by his energy, he is everything. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter. He is spread throughout the creation as everything, but still he is not everything. The philosophy recommended by Lord Caitanya is that he is simultaneously one and different. Verse 46. Dear Lord, O personified Vedic knowledge, in the past millennium, long, long ago, when you appeared as the great boar incarnation, you picked up the world from the water as an elephant picks up a lotus flower from a lake. When you vibrated transcendental sound in the gigantic form of a boar, the sound was accepted as a sacrificial hymn, and great sages like Sanak meditated upon it and offered prayers for your glorification. Purport. A significant word used in this verse is Trayigatra, which means that the transcendental form of the Lord is the Vedas. Anyone who engages in the worship of the deity or the form of the Lord in the temple is understood to be studying all the Vedas 24 hours a day. Simply by decorating the deities of the Lord, Radha and Krishna, in the temple, one very minutely studies the injunctions of the Vedas. Even a neophyte devotee who simply engages in the worship of the deity is understood to be in direct touch with the purport of Vedic knowledge. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Vedascha sarvair aham eva vedya. The purport of the Vedas is to understand him, Krishna. One who worships and serves Krishna directly has understood the truths of the Vedas. Verse 47. Dear Lord, we were awaiting your audience because we have been unable to perform the yajnas according to the Vedic rituals. We pray unto you, therefore, to be pleased with us. Simply by chanting your holy name, one can surpass all obstacles. we offer our respectful obeisances unto you in your presence. Purport. The Brahmin priests were very hopeful that their sacrifice would be carried out without obstacles, now that Lord Vishnu was present. It is significant in this verse that the Brahmins say, simply by chanting your holy name, we can surpass the obstacles, but now you are personally present. The performance of yajna by Daksha was obstructed by the disciples and followers of Lord Shiva. The Brahmins indirectly criticized the followers of Lord Shiva, but because the Brahmins were always protected by Lord Vishnu, Shiva's followers could not do any harm to their prosecution of the sacrificial process. There is a saying that when Krishna protects someone, no one can do him harm, and when Krishna wants to kill someone, no one can protect him. The vivid example was Ravana. Ravana was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, but when Lord Ramachandra wanted to kill him, Lord Shiva could not protect him. If some demigod, even Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, wants to do harm to a devotee, Krishna protects the devotee. But when Krishna wants to kill someone, such as Ravana or Hiranyakashipu, no demigod can protect him. Verse 48. Sri Maitreya said, after Lord Vishnu was glorified by all present, Daksha, his consciousness purified, arranged to begin again the yajna, which had been devastated by the followers of Lord Shiva. Verse 49. Maitreya continued, my dear sinless Vidura, Lord Vishnu is actually the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. Yet because of his being the supersoul of all living entities, he was satisfied simply with his share of the sacrificial offerings. He therefore addressed Daksha in a pleasing attitude. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita it is said, Bhaktaram Yajna Tapasam. Lord Vishnu or Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of all the results of sacrifices, austerities, and penances. In whatever one may engage, the ultimate goal is Vishnu. If a person does not know that, he is misled. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu has nothing to demand from anyone. He is self-satisfied, self-sufficient, but he accepts the offerings of yajna because of his friendly attitude toward all living entities. When his share of the sacrificial results was offered to him, he appeared very pleased. It is said in Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Palam Tvayam Yome Bhaktya Prayajati. If any devotee offers him even a small leaf, or a flower or water, if it is offered with love and affection, the Lord accepts it and is pleased. Although he is self-sufficient and does not need anything from anyone, he accepts such offerings because, as Supersoul, he has such a friendly attitude toward all living entities. Another point here is that he does not encroach upon another's share. In the yajna, there is a share for the demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, and a share for Lord Vishnu. He is satisfied with his own share and does not encroach upon others. Indirectly, he indicated that he was not satisfied with Daksha's trying to deny Lord Shiva his share. Maitreya addressed Vidura as sinless because Vidura was a pure Vaishnava and never committed any offense to any demigod. Although Vaishnavas accept Lord Vishnu as the supreme, they are not prone to offend demigods. They give the demigods proper respect. Vaishnavas accept Lord Shiva as the best Vaishnava. For a Vaishnava, there is no possibility of offending any demigods, and the demigods are also pleased with the Vaishnava because they are faultless devotees of Lord Vishnu. Verse 50. Lord Vishnu replied, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and I are the supreme cause of the material manifestation. I am the Supersoul, the self-sufficient witness. But impersonally, there is no difference between Brahma, Lord Shiva, and me. Purport. Lord Brahma was born out of the transcendental body of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva was born out of the body of Brahma. Lord Vishnu, therefore, is the supreme cause. In the Vedas also it is stated that in the beginning there was only Vishnu, Narayan. There was no Brahma or Shiva. Similarly, Shankaracharya confirmed this. Narayana Para. Narayan, or Lord Vishnu, is the origin, and Brahma and Shiva are manifested after creation. Lord Vishnu is also Atmeshvara, the Supersoul in everyone. Under his direction, everything is prompted from within. For example, in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated, Tene Brahma Hrida. He first educated Lord Brahma from within. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna states, Aham Adir Hi Devanam. Lord Vishnu, or Krishna, is the origin of all demigods, including Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. In another place in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna states, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. Everything is generated from me. This includes all the demigods. Similarly, in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmad Yasya Yataha. And in the Upanishads is the statement, Yatova Imani Bhutani Jayante. Everything is generated from Lord Vishnu. Everything is maintained by him, and everything is annihilated by his energy. Therefore, by their actions and reactions, the energies which come from him create the cosmic manifestations and also dissolve the whole creation. Thus the Lord is the cause and also the effect. Whatever effect we see is the interaction of his energy, and because the energy is generated from him, he is both cause and effect. Simultaneously, everything is different and the same. It is said that everything is Brahman, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. In the highest vision, nothing is beyond Brahman, and therefore Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are certainly non-different from him. Verse 51. The Lord continued, My dear Daksha Dvija, I am the original personality of Godhead, but in order to create Lord Vishnu and annihilate this cosmic manifestation, I act through my material energy, and according to the different grades of activity, my representations are differently named. Purport. As explained in Bhagavad Gita, Jivas include Mahabaho. The whole world is energy released from the Supreme Source, the Personality of Godhead, who, it is further stated in Bhagavad Gita, acts in superior energies and inferior energies. The superior energy is the living entity who is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. As parts and parcels, the living entities are not different from the Supreme Lord. The energy emanated from him is not different from him. But in the actual activity of this material world, the living entity is under the different qualities of material energy and in different forms. There are 8,400,000 life forms. The same living entity acts under the influence of the different qualities of material nature. The entities have different bodies, but originally, in the beginning of creation, Lord Vishnu is alone. For the purpose of creation, Brahma is manifested, and for annihilation there is Lord Shiva. As far as the spiritual entrance into the material world is concerned, all beings are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, but under the covering of different material qualities, they have different names. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are qualitative incarnations of Vishnu as Gunavatars, and Vishnu with them accepts control of the quality of goodness. Therefore, he is also a qualitative incarnation like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Actually, the different names exist for different directions. Otherwise, the origin is one only. Verse 52. The Lord continued. One who is not in proper knowledge thinks that demigods like Brahma and Shiva are independent, or he even thinks that the living entities are independent. Purport. The living entities, including Brahma, are not independently separated, but are counted within the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, being the Supersoul in every living entity, including Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, is directing everyone in the activities of the material modes of nature. No one can act independently of the sanction of the Lord, and therefore, indirectly, no one is different from the Supreme Person, certainly not Brahma and Rudra, who are incarnations of the material nature's modes of passion and ignorance. Verse 53. A person with average intelligence does not think the head and other parts of the body to be separate. Similarly, my devotee does not differentiate Vishnu, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, from anything or any living entity. Purport. Whenever there is disease in any part of the body, the whole body takes care of the ailing part. Similarly, a devotee's oneness is manifested in his compassion for all conditioned souls. Bhagavad Gita says, Pandita Samadarshana. Those who are learned see everyone's conditional life equally. Devotees are compassionate to every conditioned soul, and therefore they are known as Aparakya Buddhi. Because devotees are learned and know that every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, they preach Krishna consciousness to everyone so that everyone may be happy. If a particular part of the body is diseased, the whole attention of the body goes to that part. Similarly, devotees care for any person who is forgetful of Krishna and therefore in material consciousness. The equal vision of the devotee is that he works to get all living entities back home, back to Godhead. Verse 54. The Lord continued, one who does not consider Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, or the living entities in general to be separate from the Supreme, and who knows Brahman, actually realizes peace. Others do not. Purport. Two words are very significant in this verse. Trayayam indicates three, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. Bidam means different. They are three, and therefore they are separate, but at the same time they are one. This is the philosophy of simultaneous oneness and difference, which is called Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. The example given in the Brahma Samhita is that milk and yogurt are simultaneously one and different. Both are milk, but the yogurt has become changed. In order to achieve real peace, one should see everything and every living entity, including Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, as non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is independent. Every one of us is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This accounts for unity and diversity. There are diverse manifestations, but at the same time, they are one in Vishnu. Everything is an expansion of Vishnu's energy. Verse 55. The sage Maitreya said, thus Daksha, the head of all Prajapatis, having been nicely instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, worshipped Lord Vishnu. After worshipping him by performing the prescribed sacrificial ceremonies, Daksha separately worshipped Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Purport. Lord Vishnu should be offered everything, and his prasad should be distributed to all the demigods. This practice is still followed in the temple of Jagannath at Puri. There are many temples of demigods around the main temple of Jagannath, and the prasad which is offered first to Jagannath is distributed to all the demigods. The deity of Bagaline is worshipped with the prasad of Vishnu, and also in the famous Lord Shiva temple of Bhuvaneshwar, the prasad of Lord Vishnu or Lord Jagannath is offered to the deity of Lord Shiva. This is the Vaishnava principle. The Vaishnava does not deride even ordinary living entities, including the small ant. Everyone is offered proper respect according to his position. The offering, however, is in relation to the center, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or Vishnu. The devotee who is highly elevated sees the relationship to Krishna in everything. He does not see anything as being independent of Krishna. That is his vision of oneness. Verse 56. With all respect, Daksha worshipped Lord Shiva with his share of the remnants of the yajna. After finishing the ritualistic sacrificial activities, he satisfied all the other demigods and the other people assembled there. Then, after finishing all these duties with the priests, he took a bath and was fully satisfied. Purport. Lord Rudra, Shiva, was properly worshipped with his share of the remnants of the yajna. Yajna is Vishnu, and whatever prasad is offered to Vishnu is offered to everyone, even to Lord Shiva. Sridhar Swami also comments in this connection, Swena Pagena. The remnants of the yajna are offered to all the demigods and others. Verse 57. Thus worshipping the Supreme Lord Vishnu by the ritualistic performance of sacrifice, Daksha was completely situated on the religious path. Moreover, all the demigods who had assembled at the sacrifice blessed him that he might increase his piety, and then they left. Purport. Although Daksha was considerably advanced in religious principles, he awaited the blessings of the demigods. Thus the great sacrifice conducted by Daksha ended in harmony and peace. Verse 58. Maitreya said, I have heard that after giving up the body she had received from Daksha, Dakshayani, his daughter, took her birth in the kingdom of the Himalayas. She was born as the daughter of Mena. I heard this from authoritative sources. Purport. Mena is also known as Menaka and is the wife of the king of the Himalayas. Verse 59. Ambika, or goddess Durga, who was known as Dakshayini, or Sati, again accepted Lord Shiva as her husband, just as different energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead act during the course of a new creation. Purport. According to a verse in the Vedic mantras, Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shriyate, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has different varieties of energies. Shakti is feminine and the Lord is Purusha, masculine. It is the duty of the female to serve under the Supreme Purusha. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, all living entities are marginal energies of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it is the duty of all living entities to serve this Supreme Person. Durga is the representation in the material world of both the marginal and external energies, and Lord Shiva is the representation of the Supreme Person. The connection of Lord Shiva and Ambika, or Durga, is eternal. Sati could not accept any husband but Lord Shiva. How Lord Shiva remarried Durga as Himavati, the daughter of the Himalayas, and how Kartikeya was born, is a great story in itself. Verse 60. Maitreya said, My dear Vidura, I heard this story of the Daksha Yajna, which was devastated by Lord Shiva, from Uddhava, a great devotee and a disciple of Brihaspati. Verse 61. The great sage Maitreya concluded, if one hears and again narrates with faith and devotion this story of the Daksha Yajna as it was conducted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, then certainly one is cleared of all contamination of material existence, O son of Kuru. Chapter 51. Krishna, the Rancher. When Muchukunda, the celebrated descendant of the Ikshvaku dynasty, was favored by Lord Krishna, he circumambulated the Lord within the cave and then came out. On coming out of the cave, Muchukunda saw that the stature of the human species had surprisingly been reduced to pygmy size. Similarly, the trees had also far reduced in size, and Muchukunda could immediately understand that the current age was Kali Yuga. Therefore, without diverting his attention, he began to travel north. Eventually, he reached the mountain known as Gandhamadana. It appeared there were many trees on this mountain, such as sandalwood and other flower trees, the flavor of which made anyone joyful who reached them. He decided to remain in that Gandhamadana mountain region in order to execute austerities and penances for the rest of his life. It appears that this place is situated in the northernmost part of the Himalayan mountains, where the abode of Narayan is situated. This place is still existing and is called Badrak Ashram. In Badrak Ashram, he engaged himself in the worship of Lord Krishna, forgetting all pain and pleasure and the other dualities of this material world. Lord Krishna also returned to the vicinity of the city of Mathura and began to fight with the soldiers of Kalyavan and kill them one after another. After this, He collected all the booty from the dead bodies, and under his direction, it was loaded on bullock carts by big men and brought back to Dwarka. Meanwhile, Jarasandha again attacked Mathura, this time with bigger divisions of soldiers, numbering 23 Akshahinis. Lord Sri Krishna wanted to save Mathura from the 18th attack of the great military divisions of King Jarasandha. In order to prevent further killing of soldiers and to attend to other important business, Lord Krishna left the battlefield without fighting. Actually, he was not at all afraid, but he pretended to be an ordinary human being, frightened by the immense quantity of soldiers and resources of Jarasandha. Without any weapons, he left the battlefield. Although his lotus feet were as soft as the petals of the lotus flower, he proceeded for a very long distance on foot. This time, Jarasandha thought that Krishna and Balaram were very much afraid of his military strength and were fleeing from the battlefield. He began to follow them with all his chariots, horses, and infantry. He thought Krishna and Balaram to be ordinary human beings, and he was trying to measure the activities of the Lord. Krishna is known as Ranchor, which means one who has left the battlefield. In India, especially in Gujarat, there are many temples of Krishna which are known as temples of Rancharji. Ordinarily, if a king leaves the battlefield without fighting, he is called a coward. But when Krishna enacts this pastime, leaving the battlefield without fighting, he is worshipped by the devotee. A demon always tries to measure the opulence of Krishna, whereas the devotee never tries to measure his strength and opulence, but always surrenders unto him and worships him. By following the footsteps of pure devotees, we can know that Krishna, the Ranchorji, did not leave the battlefield because he was afraid, but because he had some other purpose. The purpose, as it will be revealed, was to attend to a confidential letter sent by Rukmini, his future first wife. The act of Krishna's leaving the battlefield is a display of one of his 6 opulences. Krishna is the supreme powerful, the supreme wealthy, the supreme famous, the supreme wise, the supreme beautiful. Similarly, he is the supreme renouncer. Srimad Bhagavatam clearly states that he left the battlefield in spite of having ample military strength. Even without his militia, however, he alone would have been sufficient to defeat the army of Jarasandha, as he had done 17 times before. Therefore, his leaving the battlefield is an example of his supremest opulence of renunciation. After traversing a very long distance, the brothers pretended to become very tired. To mitigate their weariness, they climbed up a very high mountain several miles above sea level. This mountain was called Pravarshana due to constant rain. The peak was always covered with clouds sent by Indra. Jarasandha took it for granted that the 2 brothers were afraid of his military power and had hidden themselves at the top of the mountain. First, he tried to find them, searching for a long time, but when he failed, he decided to trap and kill them by setting fires around the peak. He therefore surrounded the peak with oil and set it on fire. As the blaze spread more and more, Krishna and Balaram jumped from the top of the mountain down to the ground, a distance of 88 miles. Thus, while the peak was burning up, Krishna and Balaram escaped without being seen by Jarasandha. Jarasandha concluded that the 2 brothers had been burned to ashes and that there was no need of further fighting. Thinking himself successful in his efforts, he left the city of Mathura and returned to his home in the kingdom of Magadha. Gradually, Krishna and Balaram reached the city of Dwarka, which was surrounded on all sides by the sea. Following this, Sri Balaram married Revati, daughter of King Raivata, ruler of the Anarta province. This is explained in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. After the marriage of Baladev, Krishna married Rukmini. Rukmini was the daughter of King Bhishmaka, ruler of the province known as Vidarbha. Just as Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, Rukmini is the Supreme Goddess of Fortune, Mahalakshmi. According to the authority of Caitanya Charitamrita, the expansion of Krishna and Sri Radharani is simultaneous. Krishna expands himself into various Vishnu Tattva forms, and Srimati Radharani expands herself into various Shakti Tattva forms by her internal potency as multi-forms of the Goddess of Fortune. According to Vedic convention, there are 8 kinds of marriages. In the first-class marriage system, the parents of the bride and bridegroom arrange the marriage date. Then, in royal style, the bridegroom goes to the house of the bride, and in the presence of Brahmins, priests, and relatives, the bride is given in charity to the bridegroom. Besides this, there are other systems such as the Gandharva and Rakshasa marriages. Rukmini was married to Krishna in the Rakshasa style because she was kidnapped by him in the presence of his many rivals like Shishupal, Jarasandha, Shalva, and others. While Rukmini was being given in charity to Shishupal, she was snatched from the marriage arena by Krishna, exactly as Garuda snatched the pot of nectar from the demons. Rukmini, the only daughter of King Bhishmaka, was exquisitely beautiful. She was known as Ruchiranana, which means one who has a beautiful face, expanding like a lotus flower. Devotees of Krishna are always anxious to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord. His activities of fighting, kidnapping, and running away from the battlefield are all transcendental, being on the absolute platform, and devotees take a transcendental interest in hearing of them. The pure devotee does not make the distinction that some activities of the Lord should be heard and others should be avoided. There is, however, a class of so-called devotees known as Prakrita Sahaja, who are very interested in hearing about Krishna's Rasa Leela with the gopis, but not about his fighting activities with his enemies. They do not know that his bellicose activities and his friendly activities with the gopis are equally transcendental, being on the absolute platform. The transcendental pastimes of Krishna described in the Srimad Bhagavatam are relished by pure devotees through submissive oral reception. They do not reject even a drop. The story of Krishna's marriage with Rukmini is described as follows. The king of Vidarbha, Maharaj Bhishmaka, was a very qualified and devoted prince. He had 5 sons and only 1 daughter. The first son was known as Rukmi, the second Rukmarat, the third Rukmabahu, the fourth and youngest Rukmakesh, and the fifth Rukmamali. The brothers had 1 young sister, Rukmini. She was beautiful and chaste and was meant to be married to Lord Krishna. Many saintly persons and sages like Narada Muni and others used to visit the palace of King Bhishmaka. Naturally, Rukmini had a chance to talk with them, and in this way she obtained information about Krishna. She was informed about the 6 opulences of Krishna, and simply by hearing about him, she desired to surrender herself to his lotus feet and become his wife. Krishna had also heard of Rukmini. She was the reservoir of all transcendental qualities: intelligence, liberal-mindedness, exquisite beauty, and righteous behavior. Krishna therefore decided that she was fit to be his wife. All of the family members and relatives of King Bhishmaka decided that Rukmini should be given in marriage to Krishna. However, her elder brother, Rukmi, despite the desire of the others, arranged for her marriage with Shishupal, a determined enemy of Krishna. When the black-eyed, beautiful Rukmini heard the settlement, she immediately became very morose. However, being a king's daughter, she understood political diplomacy and decided that there was no use in simply being morose. Some steps should be taken immediately. After some deliberation, she decided to send a message to Krishna, and so that she might not be deceived, she selected a qualified Brahmin as her messenger. Such a qualified Brahmin is always truthful and is a devotee of Vishnu. Without delay, the Brahmin was sent to Dwarka. Reaching the gate of Dwarka, the Brahmin informed the doorkeeper of his arrival, and the doorkeeper led him to the place where Krishna was sitting on a golden throne. Since the Brahmin had the opportunity of being Rukmini's messenger, he was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is the original cause of all causes. A Brahmin is the spiritual teacher of all the social divisions. Lord Sri Krishna, in order to teach everyone the Vedic etiquette of how to respect a Brahmin, immediately got up and offered him his throne. When the Brahmin was seated on the golden throne, Lord Sri Krishna began to worship him exactly in the manner in which the demigods worship Krishna. In this way, he taught everyone that worshiping his devotee is more valuable than worshiping himself. In due time, the Brahmin took his bath, accepted his meals, and took to rest on a bedstead completely bedecked with soft silk. As he was resting, Lord Sri Krishna silently approached and, with great respect, put the Brahmin's legs on his lap and began to massage them. In this way, Krishna appeared before the Brahmin and said, "My dear Brahmin, I hope that you are executing the religious principles without any difficulty, and that your mind is always in a peaceful condition." Different classes of people in the social system are engaged in various professions, and when one inquires as to the well-being of a particular person, it must be done on the basis of that person's occupation. Therefore, when one inquires as to the welfare of a Brahmin, the question should be worded according to his condition of life so as not to disturb him. A peaceful mind is the basis for becoming truthful, clean, equipoised, self-controlled, and tolerant. Thus, by attaining knowledge and knowing its practical application in life, one becomes convinced about the absolute truth. The Brahmin knew Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and still he accepted the respectful service of the Lord on the grounds of Vedic social convention. Lord Sri Krishna was playing just like a human being. Belonging to the Kshatriya division of the social system and being a young boy, it was his duty to show respect to such a Brahmin. Lord Krishna continued, "O best of all the Brahmins, you should always remain satisfied, because if a Brahmin is always self-satisfied, he will not deviate from his prescribed duties. And simply by sticking to one's prescribed duties, everyone, especially the Brahmins, can attain the highest perfection of all desires. Even if a person is as opulent as the king of heaven, Indra, if he is not satisfied, he inevitably has to transmigrate from one planet to another. Such a person can never be happy under any circumstances. But if a person's mind is satisfied, even if he is bereft of his high position, he can be happy living anywhere and everywhere." This instruction of Krishna to the Brahmin is very significant. The purport is that a true Brahmin should not be disturbed in any situation. In this modern age of Kali Yuga, the so-called Brahmins have accepted the abominable position of the Sudras or less than Sudras and still want to pass as qualified Brahmins. Actually, a qualified Brahmin always sticks to his own duties and never accepts those of a Shudra or of one less than a Shudra. It is advised in the authorized scriptures that a Brahmin may, under awkward circumstances, accept the profession of a Kshatriya or even a Vaishya, but never is he to accept the profession of a Shudra. Lord Krishna declared that a Brahmin should never be disturbed by any adverse conditions of life if he scrupulously sticks to his religious principles. In conclusion, Lord Sri Krishna said, "I offer my respectful obeisances to the Brahmins and Vaishnavas, because the Brahmins are always self-satisfied, and the Vaishnavas are always engaged in actual welfare activities for the human society. They are the best friends of the people in general. Both are free from false egoism and are always in a peaceful condition of mind." Lord Krishna then desired to know about the rulers or Kshatriyas in the Brahmin's kingdom. So he inquired whether the citizens of the kingdom were all happy. A king's qualification is judged by the temperament of the people in the kingdom. If they are very happy in all respects, it is to be understood that the king is honest and executing his duties rightly. Krishna said that the king in whose kingdom the citizens are happy is very dear to him. Of course, Krishna could understand that the Brahmin had come with a confidential message. Therefore he said, "If you have no objection, I am giving you permission to speak about your mission." Thus, being very satisfied by these transcendental pastimes with the Lord, the Brahmin narrated the whole story of his mission to come and see Krishna. He got out the letter which Rukmini had written to Krishna and said, "These are the words of Princess Rukmini. My dear Krishna, O infallible and most beautiful one, any human being who happens to hear about your transcendental form and pastimes immediately absorbs through his ears your name, fame, and qualities. Thus evaded me and taken my heart. You may suspect that I am an unmarried girl, young in age, and may doubt my steadiness and character. But, my dear Mukunda, you are the supreme lion among the human beings, the supreme person among persons. Any girl, although not yet out of her home, or any woman who may be of the highest chastity, would desire to marry you, being captivated by your unprecedented character, knowledge, opulence, and position. I know that you are the husband of the goddess of fortune, and that you are very kind toward your devotees. Therefore, I have decided to become your eternal maidservant. My dear Lord, I dedicate my life and soul unto your lotus feet. I have accepted your lordship as my selected husband, and I therefore request you to accept me as your wife. You are the supreme powerful, O lotus-eyed one. Now I belong to you. If that which is enjoyable for the lion to eat is taken away by the jackal, it will be a ludicrous affair. Therefore, I request you to immediately take care of me before I am taken away by Shishupal and other princes like him. My dear Lord, in my previous life, I may have done public welfare work like digging wells and growing trees, or pious activities such as performing ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices, and serving the superior spiritual master, the Brahmins and Vaishnavas. By these activities, perhaps I have pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. If this is so, then I wish that you, Lord Krishna, the brother of Lord Balaram, would please come here and catch hold of my hand so that I may not be touched by Shishupal and his company. Rukmini's marriage with Shishupal was already settled. Therefore, she suggested that Krishna kidnap her so that this might be changed. This sort of marriage, in which the girl is kidnapped by force, is known as Rakshasa and is practiced among the Kshatriyas, or the administrative, martial, spirited type of men. Because her marriage was already arranged to take place the next day, Rukmini suggested that Krishna come there incognito to kidnap her and then fight with Shishupal and his allies like the king of Magadha. Knowing that no one could conquer Krishna, and that he would certainly emerge victorious, she addressed him as Ajita, the unconquerable. Rukmini told Krishna not to be concerned that many of her family members, including other women, might be wounded or even killed if the fighting took place within the palace. As the king of a country thinks of diplomatic ways to achieve his object, similarly Rukmini, being the daughter of a king, was diplomatically an undesirable killing could be avoided. She explained that it was the custom of her family to visit the temple of the goddess Durga, their family deity, before marriage. The Kshatriya kings were mostly staunch Vaishnavas, worshipping Lord Vishnu in either the Radha Krishna or Lakshmi Narayan form. Still, for their material welfare, they used to worship the goddess Durga. They never made the mistake, however, of accepting the demigods as the Supreme Lord on the level of Vishnu Tattva, as did some less intelligent men. In order to avoid the unnecessary killing of her relatives, Rukmini suggested that it would be easiest for him to kidnap her while she was either going from the palace to the temple or else while she was returning home. She also explained to Krishna why she was so anxious to be married to him, even though her marriage was to take place with Shishupal, who was also qualified, being the son of a great king. Rukmini said that she did not think anyone was greater than Krishna, not even Lord Shiva, who is known as Mahadev, the greatest of all demigods. Lord Shiva also seeks the pleasure of Lord Krishna in order to be delivered from his entanglement in the quality of ignorance within the material world. In spite of the fact that Lord Shiva is the greatest of all great souls, Mahatmas, he keeps on his head the purifying water of the Ganges, which emanates from a hole in this material universe made by the toe of Lord Vishnu. Lord Shiva is in charge of the material quality of ignorance, and in order to keep himself in a transcendental position, he always meditates on Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Rukmini knew very well that obtaining the favor of Krishna was not an easy job. If even Lord Shiva must purify himself for this purpose, surely it would be difficult for Rukmini, who was only the daughter of a Kshatriya king. Thus she desired to dedicate her life to observing severe austerities and penances, such as fasting and going without bodily comforts. If it were not possible in this lifetime to gain Krishna's favor by these activities, she was prepared to do the same lifetime after lifetime. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that pure devotees of the Lord execute devotional service with great determination. Such determination, as exhibited by Rukmini Devi, is the only price for purchasing Krishna's favor and is the way to ultimate success in Krishna consciousness. After explaining Rukmini Devi's statement to Krishna, the Brahmin said, "My dear Krishna, chief of the Yadu dynasty, I have brought this confidential message for you from Rukmini. Now it is placed before you for your consideration. After due deliberation, you can act as you please, but if you want to do something, you must do it immediately. There is not much time left for action." Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 51st chapter of Krishna, Krishna the Ranchor. Chapter 2. The Killing of Satrajit and Shatadhanva. After Acarya visited Hastinapur and reported the condition of the Pandavas to Krishna, there were further developments. The Pandavas were transferred to a house which was made of shellac and was later on set ablaze, and everyone understood that the Pandavas, along with their mother, Kunti, had been killed. This information was also sent to Lord Krishna and Balaram. After consulting together, they decided to go to Hastinapur to show sympathy to their relatives. Krishna and Balaram certainly knew that the Pandavas could not have been killed in the devastating fire, but in spite of this knowledge, they wanted to go to Hastinapur to take part in the bereavement. On arriving in Hastinapur, Krishna and Balaram first of all went to see Bhishmadev because he was the chief of the Kuru dynasty. They then saw Vidura, Gandhari, and Drona. Other members of the Kuru dynasty were not sorry because they wanted the Pandavas and their mother to be killed. But some family members, headed by Bhishma, were actually very sorry for the incident, and Krishna and Balaram expressed equal sorrow without disclosing the actual situation. When Krishna and Balaram were away from the city of Dwarka, there was a conspiracy to take away the Shamantaka jewel from Satrajit. The chief conspirator was Shatadhanva. Along with others, Shatadhanva wanted to marry Satyabhama, the beautiful daughter of Satrajit. Satrajit had promised that he would give his beautiful daughter in charity to various candidates, but later on the decision was changed, and Satyabhama was given to Krishna, along with the Shamantaka jewel. Satrajit had no desire to give the jewel away along with his daughter, and Krishna, knowing his mentality, accepted his daughter, but returned the jewel. After getting back the jewel from Krishna, he was satisfied and kept it with him always. But in the absence of Krishna and Balaram, there was a conspiracy by many men, including even Acarya and Kritavarma, who were devotees of Lord Krishna, to take the jewel from Satyajit. Acarya and Kritavarma joined the conspiracy because they wanted the jewel for Krishna. They knew that Krishna wanted the jewel and that Satyajit had not delivered it properly. Others joined the conspiracy because they were disappointed in not having the hand of Satyabhama. Some of them incited Shatadhanva to kill Satyajit and take away the jewel. The question is generally raised, why did a great devotee like Acarya join this conspiracy? And why did Kritavarma, although a devotee of the Lord, join the conspiracy also? The answer is given by great authorities like Jiva Goswami and others, that although Acarya was a great devotee, he was cursed by the inhabitants of Vrindavan because of his taking Krishna away from their midst. Because of his wounding their feelings, Acarya was forced to join the conspiracy declared by sinful men. Similarly, Kritavarma was a devotee, but because of his intimate association with Kamsa, he was also contaminated by sinful reaction, and he also joined the conspiracy. Being inspired by all the members of the conspiracy, Shatadhanva one night entered the house of Satyajit and killed him while he was sleeping. Shatadhanva was a sinful man of abominable character, and although due to his sinful activities he was not to live for many days, he decided to kill Satyajit while Satyajit was sleeping at home. When he entered the house to kill Satyajit, all the women there began to cry very loudly, but in spite of their great protests, Shatadhanva mercilessly butchered Satyajit without hesitation, exactly as a butcher kills an animal in the slaughterhouse. Since Krishna was absent from home, his wife Satyabhama was also present on the night Satyajit was murdered, and she began to cry, my dear father, how mercilessly you have been killed." The dead body of Satyajit was not immediately removed for cremation because Satyabhama wanted to go to Krishna in Hastinapur. Therefore, the body was preserved in a tank of oil so that Krishna could come back and see the dead body of Satyajit and take real action against Shatadhanva. Satyabhama immediately started for Hastinapur to inform Krishna about the ghastly death of her father. When Krishna was informed by Satyabhama of the murder of his father-in-law, he began to lament like an ordinary man. His great sorrow is, again, a strange thing. Lord Krishna has nothing to do with action and reaction, but because he was playing the part of a human being, he expressed his full sympathy for the bereavement of Satyabhama, and his eyes filled with tears upon hearing about the death of his father-in-law. He thus began to lament, "Oh, what unhappy incidents have taken place." In this way, both Krishna and Balaram, along with Satyabhama, the wife of Krishna, immediately returned to Dwarka and began to make plans to kill Shatadhanva and take away the jewel. Although he was a great outlaw in the city, Shatadhanva was still very much afraid of Krishna's power, and thus he became most afraid on Krishna's arrival. Understanding Krishna's plan to kill him, he immediately went to take shelter of Kritavarma. But on being approached by him, Kritavarma said, "I shall never be able to offend Lord Krishna and Balaram because they are not ordinary persons. They are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who can be saved from death if he has offended Balaram and Krishna? No one can be saved from their wrath." Kritavarma further said that Kamsa, although powerful and assisted by many demons, could not be saved from the wrath of Krishna, and what to speak of Jarasandha, who had been defeated by Krishna 18 times, and each time had to return from the fighting in disappointment. When Shatadhanva was refused help by Kritavarma, he went to Acarya and implored him to help. Acarya also replied, "Both Balaram and Krishna are themselves the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and anyone who knows their unlimited strength would never dare to offend them or fight with them. He further informed Shatadhanva, Krishna and Balaram are so powerful that simply by willing, they are creating the whole cosmic manifestation, maintaining it and dissolving it. Unfortunately, persons who are bewildered by the illusory energy cannot understand the strength of Krishna, although the whole cosmic manifestation is fully under his control. He cited as an example that Krishna, even at the age of 7 years, had lifted Govardhan Hill and had continued to hold up the mountain for 7 days, exactly as a child carries a small umbrella. Acarya plainly informed Shatadhanva that he would always offer his most respectful obeisances to Krishna, the supersoul of everything that is created, and the original cause of all causes. When Acarya also refused to give him shelter, Shatadhanva decided to deliver to the hands of Acarya the Shamantaka jewel. Then, riding on a horse which could run at great speed and up to 400 miles at a stretch, he fled the city. When Krishna and Balaram were informed of the flight of Shatadhanva, they mounted their chariot, its flag marked by the picture of Garuda, and followed immediately. Krishna was particularly angry with Shatadhanva and wanted to kill him because he had killed Satrajit, a superior personality. Satrajit happened to be the father-in-law of Krishna, and it is the injunction of the Shastras that anyone who has rebelled against a superior person, or Guru Druha, must be punished in proportion to the volume of offense. Because Shatadhanva had killed his father-in-law, Krishna was determined to kill him by any means. Shatadhanva's horse became exhausted and died near a garden house in Mithila. Unable to take help of the horse, Shatadhanva began to run with great speed. In order to be fair to Shatadhanva, Krishna and Balaram also left their chariot and began to follow Shatadhanva on foot. While both Shatadhanva and Krishna were running on foot, Krishna took his disc and cut off the head of Shatadhanva. After Shatadhanva was killed, Krishna searched through his clothing for the Shamantaka jewel, but he could not find it. He then returned to Balaram and said, "We have killed this person uselessly because the jewel is not to be found on his body." Sri Balaram suggested, "The jewel might have been kept in custody of another man in Dwarka, so you'd better return and search it out." Sri Balaram expressed his desire to remain in Mithila city for some days because he enjoyed an intimate friendship with the king. Therefore, Krishna returned to Dwarka and Balaram entered the city of Mithila. When the king of Mithila saw the arrival of Sri Balaram in his city, he became most pleased and received the Lord with great honor and hospitality. He presented many valuable presents to Balaramji in order to seek his pleasure. At this time, Sri Balaram lived in the city for several years as the honored guest of the king of Mithila, Janak Maharaj. During this time, Duryodhana, the eldest son of Dhritarashtra, took the opportunity of coming to Balaram and learning from him the art of fighting with a club. After killing Shatadhanva, Krishna returned to Dwarka, and in order to please his wife, Satyabhama, he informed her of the death of Shatadhanva, the killer of her father. But he also informed her that the jewel had not been found in his possession. Then, according to religious principles, Krishna, along with Satyabhama, performed all kinds of ceremonies in honor of the death of his father-in-law. In that ceremony, all the friends and relatives of the family joined together. Acarya and Kritavarma, who were prominent members in the conspiracy to kill Satrajit, had incited Shatadhanva to kill him. But when they heard of the death of Shatadhanva at Krishna's hand, and when they heard also that Krishna had returned to Dwarka, they both immediately left Dwarka. The citizens of Dwarka felt themselves threatened with pestilence and natural disturbances due to the absence of Acarya from the city. This was a kind of superstition because, while Lord Krishna was present, there could not be any pestilence, famine, or natural disturbances. But in the absence of Acarya, there were some disturbances in Dwarka. Once in the province of Kashi, within the barricade of Varanasi, there was severe drought and practically no rainfall. At that time, the king of Kashi arranged the marriage of his daughter, known as Gandhini, with Svapalka, the father of Acarya. This was done by the king of Kashi on the advice of an astrologer, and actually it so happened that after the marriage of the king's daughter with Svapalka, there was sufficient rainfall in the province. Due to this supernatural power of Svapalka, his son, Acarya, was also considered equally powerful, and people were under the impression that wherever Acarya or his father remained, there would be no natural disturbance, famine, or drought. That kingdom is considered to be happy where there is no famine, pestilence, or excessive heat and cold, and where people are happy mentally, spiritually, and bodily. As soon as there is some disturbance, people consider the cause to be due to the absence of an auspicious personality in the city. Thus there was a rumor that because of the absence of Acarya, inauspicious things were happening. After the departure of Acarya, some of the elderly members of the town began to perceive that there were also inauspicious signs due to the absence of the Shamantaka jewel. When Lord Sri Krishna heard these rumors spread by the people, he decided to summon Acarya from the kingdom of Kashi. Acarya was Krishna's uncle. Therefore, when he came back to Dwarka, Lord Krishna first of all welcomed him as befitting a superior person. Krishna is the supersoul in everyone's heart. He knows everything going on in everyone's heart. He knew everything that had happened in connection with Acarya's conspiracy with Shatadhanva. Therefore, he smilingly began to address Acarya. Addressing him as the chief among magnificent men, Krishna said, "My dear uncle, it is already known to me that the Shamantaka jewel was left by Shatadhanva with you. Presently, there is no direct claimant of the Shamantaka jewel, for King Satrajit has no male issue. His daughter Satyabhama is not very anxious for this jewel, yet her expected son, as grandson of Satrajit, would, after performing the regulative principles of inheritance, be the legal claimant of the jewel." Lord Krishna indicated by this statement that Satyabhama was already pregnant, and that her son would be the real claimant for the jewel and would certainly take the jewel from him. Krishna continued, "This jewel is so powerful that no ordinary man is able to keep it. I know that you are very pious in activities, so there is no objection to the jewel being kept with you. There is one difficulty, and that is that my elder brother, Sri Balaram, does not believe my version that the jewel is with you. I therefore request you, O large-hearted one, to show me the jewel before my other relatives so that they may be pacified. You cannot deny that the jewel is with you because from various kinds of rumors we can understand that you have enhanced your opulence and are performing sacrifices on an altar made of solid gold. The properties of the jewel were known. Wherever the jewel remained, it would produce, for the keeper, almost 9 mounds of pure gold daily. Acarya was getting gold in that proportion and was distributing it very profusely at sacrificial performances. Lord Krishna cited Acarya's lavishly spending in gold as positive evidence of his possessing the Shamantaka jewel. When Lord Krishna, in friendly terms and in sweet language, impressed Acarya about the real fact, and Acarya understood that nothing could be concealed from the knowledge of Sri Krishna, he brought the valuable jewel, shining like the sun and covered by cloth, and presented it before Krishna. Lord Krishna took the Shamantaka jewel in his hand and showed it to all his relatives and friends present there, and then again returned the jewel to Acarya in their presence, so that they would know that the jewel was actually being kept by Acarya in Dwarka city. The story of the Shamantaka jewel is very significant. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that anyone who hears the story of the Shamantaka jewel, or describes it, or simply remembers it, will be free from all kinds of defamation and the reactions of all impious activities, and thus will attain the highest perfectional condition of peace. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the second volume, second chapter of Krishna, the killing of Satrajit and Shatadhanva. Chapter 42, Fraternal Loving Affairs. Krishna's age, his beauty, his bugle, his flute, his conch shell, and his pleasing attitude all provoke love and friendship for him. His exceptional joking abilities, exhibited sometimes by his pretending to be a royal prince, or even the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also give impetus to devotees developing love for Krishna and friendship. Learned scholars have divided Krishna's age into 3 periods. The age up to 5 years is called Kamara. The age from the 6th to the 10th year is called Paganda. And the age from the 11th to 15th year is called Kaishora. While Krishna is spending his days as a cowherd boy, he is in the Kamara and Paganda ages. In the Kaishora age, when Krishna appeared at Gokula, he acted as a cowherd boy, and then, when he was 16, he went to Mathura to kill Kamsa. Kamara age is just suitable for reciprocating the love of a child with Mother Yashoda. In the 10th canto, 13th chapter, 9th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami tells King Parikshit, "My dear king, although Lord Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and the beneficiary of all kinds of sacrificial ceremonies, he still used to eat with his cowherd boyfriends. This is because at that time he accepted the pastimes of an ordinary boy, keeping his flute under his arm and his bugle on the right side of his belt, along with his cane. In his left hand he would hold a lump of rice paste with yogurt, and in his fingers would be Pilu, the king of fruits. When he would thus sit amongst his friends, it would appear that he was the whorl of a lotus flower, and that the friends surrounding him were petals. As they thus enjoyed joking amongst themselves, the denizens of heaven would become struck with wonder and would only stare at the scene." Krishna's Paganda age can be further divided into 3 periods, namely the beginning, middle, and end. In the beginning of the Paganda age, there is a very nice reddish luster on his lips. His abdomen is very thin, and on his neck are circles like those on a conch shell. Sometimes some outside visitors would return to Vrindavan to see Krishna and, upon seeing him again, would exclaim, "My dear Mukunda, your beauty is gradually increasing, just like the leaf on a banyan tree. My dear lotus-eyed one, your neck is gradually manifesting circles like the conch shell. And in the shining moonlight, your teeth and cheeks are competing with the Padmaraga jewels in their beautiful arrangement. I am sure that your beautiful bodily development is now giving much pleasure to your friends." At this age, Krishna was garlanded with various kinds of flowers. He used to put on a silk dress, colored with various kinds of dye. Such beautiful decorations are considered cosmetics for Krishna. Krishna would wear this dress when he used to go into the forest to tend the cows. Sometimes he would wrestle there with his different friends, and sometimes they would dance all together in the forest. These are some of the specific activities of the Paganda age. The cowherd friends of Krishna were so happy in his company that they expressed their transcendental feelings within themselves thus: "My dear Krishna, you are always busy tending the cows which are scattered all over beautiful Vrindavan. You have a beautiful garland, a small conch shell, a peacock feather on your turban, yellow-colored silk cloth, decorations of Karnikara flowers on your ears, and a Malika flower garland on your chest. appearing so beautiful, when you pretend, just like an actor, to be fighting with us, you give us unlimited transcendental bliss. When Krishna is more grown up, in the middle age of Palganda, his nails become finely sharp, and his chubby cheeks become lustrous and round. On the two sides of his waist, above his belt, there are three distinct lines of folded skin, called tribali. The cowherd boyfriends of Krishna felt very proud of their association with him. At that time, the tip of his nose defeated the beauty of sesame flowers, the luster of his cheeks defeated the glow of pearls, and the two sides of his body were exquisitely beautiful. In this age, Krishna wore a silk dress that glittered like lightning. His head was decorated with a silk turban covered with gold lace, and in his hand he carried a stick about 56 inches long. Seeing this exquisitely beautiful dress of Krishna, one devotee addressed his friend in this manner: "My dear friend, just look at Krishna. See how he is carrying in his hand a stick which is bound up and down with golden rings, how his turban with golden lace is showing such a beautiful luster, and how his dress is giving his friends the highest transcendental pleasure." At the end of Krishna's Palganda age, Krishna's hair sometimes hangs down to his hips, and sometimes it becomes scattered. In this age, his two shoulders become higher and broader, and his face is always decorated with marks of tilak. When his beautiful hair scatters over his shoulders, it appears to be a goddess of fortune embracing him, and this embracing is highly relished by his friends. Subal once addressed him in this way: "My dear Keshava, your round turban, the lotus flower in your hand, the vertical marks of tilak on your forehead, your kumkum-flavored musk, and all of your beautiful bodily features are defeating me today, although I am usually stronger than you or any of our friends. Since this is so, I do not know how these features of your body can fail to defeat the pride of all the young girls of Vrindavan. When I am so defeated by this beauty, what chance is there for those who are naturally very simple and flexible?" At this age, Krishna took pleasure in whispering into the ears of his friends, and the subject of his talks was the beauty of the gopis, who were just tarrying before them. Subal once addressed Krishna thus: "My dear Krishna, you are very cunning. You can understand the thoughts of others. Therefore, I am whispering within your ear that all these 5 gopis, who are most beautiful, have been attracted by your dress. And I believe that Cupid has entrusted them with the responsibility of conquering you." In other words, the beauty of the gopis was capable of conquering Krishna, although Krishna is the conqueror of all universes. The symptoms of the Kaishora age are already described, and it is at this age that devotees generally most appreciate Krishna. Krishna with Radharani is worshipped as Kishora Kishori. Krishna does not increase his age, that although he is the oldest personality and has innumerable different forms, his original form is always youthful. In the pictures of Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, we can see that he is youthful, although at that time he was old enough to have sons, grandsons, and great-grandsons. The cowherd boyfriends of Krishna once said, "My dear Krishna, you need not decorate your body with so many ornaments. Your transcendental features are themselves so beautiful that you do not require any ornamentation." At this age, whenever Krishna begins to vibrate his flute early in the morning, all of his friends immediately get up from bed just to join him in going to the pasturing grounds. One of the friends once said, "My dear cowherd friends, the sound of Krishna's flute from above Govardhan Hill is telling us that we need not go to search him out on the bank of the Jamuna." Parvati, the wife of Lord Shiva, told her husband, "My dear Panchamukha, 5-faced, just look at the Pandavas. After hearing the sound of Krishna's conch shell known as Panchajanya, they have regained their strength and are just like lions. At this age, Krishna once dressed himself up exactly like Radharani, just to create fun among his friends. He put on golden earrings, and because he was blackish, he smeared the pulp of kumkum all over his body in order to become as fair as she. By seeing this dress, Krishna's friend Subal became very astonished. Krishna sometimes played with his intimate friends by engaging in fighting or wrestling with their arms, sometimes by playing ball, sometimes by playing chess, sometimes by carrying one another on the shoulders, and sometimes by exhibiting their expertness at whirling logs. And the cowherd friends used to please Krishna by sitting together with him on coaches or on swings, by lying together on their beds, by joking together, and by swimming in the pool. All these activities are called anubhava. Whenever all the friends would assemble in the company of Krishna, they would immediately engage in all these functions, especially in dancing together. Regarding their wrestling, one friend once asked Krishna, "My dear friend, O killer of the Aga demon, you are very proudly wandering among your friends, trying to exhibit your arms as very strong. Is it that you are envious of me? I know that you cannot defeat me in wrestling, and I also know that you were sitting idly for a long time because you were hopeless of defeating me." All the friends were very daring and would risk any difficulty because they were confident that Krishna would help them to be victorious in all adventures. They used to sit together and advise one another what to do, sometimes inducing one another to be engaged in welfare work. Sometimes they would offer betel nuts to one another, decorate one another's faces with tilak, or smear pulp of chandan on one another's bodies. Sometimes, for the sake of amusement, they used to decorate their faces in strange ways. Another business of the friends was that each of them wanted to defeat Krishna. Sometimes they used to snatch his clothing or snatch away the flowers from his hands. Sometimes one would try to induce another to decorate his body for him, and failing this, they were always ready to fight, challenging one another to combat and wrestling. These were some of the general activities of Krishna and his friends. Another important pastime of the friends of Krishna was that they served as messengers to and from the gopis. They introduced the gopis to Krishna and canvassed for Krishna. When the gopis were in disagreement with Krishna, these friends would support Krishna's side in his presence. But when Krishna was not present, they would support the side of the gopis. In this way, sometimes supporting one side, sometimes the other, they would talk very privately, with much whispering in the ears, although none of the business was very serious. The servants of Krishna were sometimes engaged in collecting flowers, decorating his body with valuable ornaments and trinkets, dancing before him, singing, helping him herd the cows, massaging his body, preparing flower garlands, and sometimes fanning his body. These were some of the primary duties of the servants of Krishna. The friends and servants of Krishna were combined together in serving him, and all of their activities are known as anubhava. When Krishna came out from the Jamuna after chastising the Kalyanaga, Sri Ram wanted to embrace him first, but he could not raise his arms because of his great feeling of respect. When Krishna used to play on his flute, the vibration appeared just like the roaring of clouds in the sky during the constellation of Swati. According to Vedic astronomical calculation, if there is rain during the constellation of the Swati star, any rain falling on the sea will produce pearls, and rain falling on a serpent will produce jewels. Similarly, when Krishna's flute roared like a thundercloud under the Swati constellation, the resulting perspiration on Sri Ram's body appeared to be just like pearls. When Krishna and Subal were embracing one another, Srimati Radharani became a little envious, and hiding her hot temperament, she said, "My dear Subal, you are very fortunate because even in the presence of superiors, you and Krishna have no hesitation in putting your arms on each other's shoulders. I think it must be admitted that in your previous lives you have succeeded in many kinds of austerities. The idea is that although Radharani was accustomed to put her arms on Krishna's shoulders, it was not possible for her to do such a thing in the presence of her superiors, whereas Subal could do so freely. Radharani therefore praised his good fortune. When Krishna entered the lake of Acarya, his intimate friends became so perturbed that their bodily colors faded, and they all produced horrible gurgling sounds. At that time, all of them fell down on the ground as if they were unconscious. Similarly, when there was a forest fire, all of Krishna's friends neglected their own protection and surrounded Krishna on all sides to protect him from the flames. This behavior of the friends toward Krishna is described by thoughtful poets as vyabhichari. In vyabhichari ecstatic love for Krishna, there is sometimes madness, dexterity, fear, laziness, jubilation, pride, dizziness, meditation, disease, forgetfulness, and humbleness. These are some of the common symptoms in the stage of vyabhichari ecstatic love for Krishna. When there are dealings between Krishna and his friends which are completely devoid of any feelings of respect, and they all treat one another on an equal level, such ecstatic love and friendship is called sthayi. When one is situated in this confidential, friendly relationship with Krishna, one shows symptoms of love such as attraction, affection, affinity, and attachment. Engineer to create the phenomenal world, he becomes the supremely powerful feature within this universe. The total material energy is created by Krishna, and later, taking advantage of all that has necessarily been created, Lord Brahma engineers the entire phenomenal universe. At the end of Lord Brahma's day, everything up to Swargaloka is inundated with water. And the next morning, when there is darkness in the universe, Brahma again brings the phenomenal manifestation into existence. Therefore, he is described here as he who manifests this universe. Trin Gunan Vrinoti. Lord Brahma takes advantage of the three modes of material nature. Prakriti, material nature, is described here as Tri Vrita, the source of the three material modes. Srila Madhvacharya comments in this connection that Tri Vrita means Prakritya. Thus, Lord Krishna is the original creator, and Lord Brahma is the original engineer. Verse 28. I offer my obeisances to the original personality within this universe, Lord Brahma, who is cognizant and who can apply his mind and realized intelligence in creating this cosmic manifestation. It is because of his activities that everything within the universe is visible. He is therefore the cause of all manifestations. Purport. The Vedanta Sutra begins by declaring that the Absolute Person is the original source of all creation, Janmadhyasya Yataha. One may ask whether Lord Brahma is the Supreme Absolute Person. No, the Supreme Absolute Person is Krishna. Brahma receives his mind, intelligence, materials, and everything else from Krishna, and then he becomes the secondary creator, the engineer of this universe. In this regard, we may note that the creation does not take place accidentally because of the explosion of a chunk. Such nonsensical theories are not accepted by Vedic students. The first created living being is Brahma, who is endowed with perfect knowledge and intelligence by the Lord. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hrida Ya Adi Kavaye. Although Brahma is the first created being, he is not independent, for he receives help from the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his heart. There is no one but Brahma at the time of creation. and therefore he receives his intelligence directly from the Lord through the heart. This has been discussed in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam.